When someone dies, they go through a traditional method of body preservation, such as embalming or simply cremated and turned to ash. The people you're going to meet here had to go through an alternate route. Here are 10 people who were preserved in bizarre ways, and we apologize ahead of time for your nightmares. To preserve your love for the richest, subscribe to our channel and never miss a moment. Gunther von Hagens. While Gunther von Hagens isn't dead, he has come up with a bizarre way of preserving the human body through a method called plastification. You see, Hagens is the creator of the Bodies Museum exhibit, where real human bodies are preserved, stripped of its skin and even bones and organs at times, and put on display for the purpose of educating the public on how the human body works. The preservation process is complicated and includes sub-zero baths, soakings, and acetone. John Torrington. 22-year-old John Torrington was a petty officer for the Franklin expedition to the Arctic Circle around 1845. The expedition was a failure and the crew was lost, including John Torrington, who died of lead poisoning at the age of 22 and was buried in the frozen tundra at the campsite. His frozen body was exhumed in the 1980s, and scientists were startled after the ice melted and saw John Torrington staring right back at them. Besides his lips and eyes being shriveled, his body was perfectly preserved. Saint Bernadette. Born in Lourdes, France in 1844, Bernadette reported seeing apparitions of the Virgin Mary on a regular basis. In 1879, she died of tuberculosis at the age of 35. In 1909, Bernadette was being canonized, so her body was exhumed and found to be incorrupt. In 1919, her body was exhumed again and found to be in great condition, despite some mold and mummification happening. Then, in 1925, her body was exhumed one more time and found to still be in great condition, and her ribs were sent to the Vatican. After molds were taken of her face and hands and wax casts placed over them, St. Bernadette's body was put on display in the reliquary in the Chapel of St. Bernadette, where she still lays today as if she's sleeping. La Donacella. La Donacella is the name of the body of a 15-year-old girl that died 500 years ago after she and 2 other children were the victims of an Inca sacrifice to the sun god and left to freeze to death. Her frozen body was found perfectly preserved, and it looked as though she is simply sleeping. After testing, scientists found that her system contained a mixture of herbs that induced a heavy sleep. Despite being hundreds of years old, La Donacella looks like any other teenage girl besides some gray hair in her braids, indicating her life was most likely stressful. Vladimir Lenin. The preservation of Vladimir Lenin's body is the result of mad science. Lenin is considered to be the father of Russian communism, and after he died, the government wanted to take extreme measures to ensure their leader's body was well preserved. His organs were removed and replaced with a humidifier and a pump meant to preserve the body's temperature. Lenin's body went through regular embalming and injections to ensure that his body continues to look as though he is simply sleeping. Dashi Dorzo Itigilov. Dashi Dorzo Itigilov was a Russian Buddhist monk who died in the lotus position in mid-chant in 1927. He was buried soon after in the robes he died in, and in the state he was found dead, per his final wishes. In 1955, his body was exhumed by the monks and found it hadn't deteriorated. In 1973, the body was exhumed again and found in a similar state. The Buddhist conference declared the body as a sacred relic, and it was placed outside in a sacred shrine where it remains today. George Malloy. In 1924, George Malloy and his partner Andrew Irvin tried to be the first people to climb Mount Everest, the tallest mountain in the world. The pair was last seen 800 feet below the summit and then never seen again, with the only evidence of their existence being an empty oxygen tank and an axe. But in 1999, an expedition sponsored by BBC and Nova resulted in the discovery of George Malloy, who was found 700 feet away from the axe. The broken rope around his waist indicated that the rope likely broke when he fell, and the axe punctured his forehead. George's body was perfectly preserved, with only his clothes in tatters due to the wind. Siu. In life, Siu was one of Thailand's most notorious serial killers who killed numerous children and ate some of their remains. His reputation eventually evolved into ghost stories parents told their children so they wouldn't stay out late, or the ghost of Siu would eat them. Siu was eventually brought to justice for his actions and hanged. Instead of burying his body, the Thai government filled his body with paraffin wax and put his body on display at the Songkran Neom Sain Forensic Medicine Museum. Lady Sin Sui. The body of Lady Sin Sui is considered to be the best preserved body in the world. Her body is still soft to the touch, her limbs are bendy, there is blood in her veins, and her organs are intact, including her brain. When did she die? Over 2,000 years ago. She was once married to the Marquis of Dai during the Han Dynasty, and her preserved remains allowed doctors to give the corpse a complete medical profile. Rosalia Lombardo. Known as Sleeping Beauty and one of the best preserved mummies in the Italian catacombs, Rosalia Lombardo died in 1920 from pneumonia, and her father, official Mario Lombardo, was so devastated that he approached an Italian embalmer named Alfredo Salafia to preserve her body. Using a mixture of alcohol, glycerin, salt, and salicylic acid, Rosalia's body was preserved so well she looks like she's sleeping, even to this day. X-rays have shown that her organs, while shrunken, are intact. Rosalia's body is one of the most popular mummies to visit in the catacombs. Well, folks, that's our list of some of the best preserved bodies in the world. What do you think? Let us know in the comments down below. And while you're here, you know the drill. Check out these other videos and subscribe to The Richest for more weird facts every day. Thanks!